All right, let's dive right in. We're about to take a journey back to the very beginnings of Western philosophy. It's a story that starts with people looking up at the stars and asking, what is all this? And it ends with them looking inward, into the human soul, asking, how should we live? So let's get right to the most important question on the table. Why should you, as a minister in Nigeria today, care about any of this ancient Greek stuff? Well, here's why. These thinkers, they weren't just asking random questions. They were building the very language, the very categories of thought that shaped the world for thousands of years. This includes the world that the Christian faith was born into. This isn't just some abstract European history. It's part of the intellectual DNA of the global faith we all share. Understanding their questions, well, it helps us to better understand our own.
So, where does this whole story begin? Well, it doesn't start with a big book of answers. It actually starts with a brand new way of asking questions. And it starts with a new, very humble name for the people who were brave enough to ask them.
You know, the word philosopher itself is a fantastic place to start. It comes to us from the brilliant mathematician Pythagoras, and he built it from two simple Greek words, philo, which means love, and sophos, which means wisdom. So a philosopher wasn't some all-knowing guru. Nope, they were simply a lover of wisdom.
And this right here, this is absolutely crucial. The name itself reveals a deep spiritual posture. Pythagoras insisted that only God is truly wise. Human beings, we can't claim that title. The best we can be are lovers of wisdom, pursuers of it. Think about that. It's a starting point of incredible humility, which is such a powerful and frankly necessary posture for any leader who's serious about seeking the truth.
Okay, so from that humble beginning, let's travel to the city of Miletus and meet the very first philosophers. These guys, they looked at the incredible, complicated world around them, the land, the sea, the sky, and they asked a question that basically kicked off all of Western science. What is all of this stuff actually made of?
So take a look. You've got Thales, who says it's all water. It makes sense, right? Water's essential for life. But then his student, Anaximander, says no, it's something more basic, something formless where opposites like hot and cold battle it out. Then comes Anaximenes, and he argues for air, linking it to the very breath of life, to the soul. Now look, their answers might seem a little simple to us now, but that's not the point. The revolutionary thing here is the search itself. It's the first attempt to find a single, rational principle behind everything, to move beyond just saying, the gods did it. And this is such a brilliant insight into how they were thinking. When Thales said all things are full of gods, he wasn't talking about Zeus and Apollo. No, he was talking about divine living forces within nature itself. Things that had power, that moved, that weren't human. So you see, they weren't getting rid of the divine, they were trying to understand it in a new, more natural way. So right after these first steps, things get really interesting. Philosophy kind of splits into two huge competing ideas about what reality is fundamentally like. One side saw the universe as this beautiful, orderly harmony. The other, they saw it as a place of endless but creative conflict. On one hand, you have Pythagoras. Again, he saw the universe as a cosmos, an ordered, beautiful whole. He believed you could understand it through the pure, eternal truths of mathematics. But then, on the other side, you've got this fascinating, mysterious figure, Heraclitus. He said things like, war is the father of all. He believed reality wasn't stable at all. It was in constant flux like a fire. And he said this whole process was governed by a divine reason, a logos. Now, for any of us who have studied the Gospel of John, that word logos should make our ears perk up immediately. The connection there is just immense. And this quote, this one famous line, really sums up his whole worldview. The river is constantly flowing, the water is always new, and guess what? So are you. Everything, for Heraclitus, is in a process of becoming. Nothing ever just is. Now, let's bring this home. Think about your own ministry context, the people you talk to every week. You know some people who see their lives as a beautiful, ordered plan from God, a cosmos. But you also minister to people who feel like life is a constant battle, a struggle, a fire. These ancient debates aren't just history. They describe the deep tensions people still feel about their lives and their faith, right now. All right, so if a debate between harmony and conflict wasn't enough, the next big question just turns everything on its head. It basically challenges the evidence of our own eyes and asks, what if all this change we see, what if it's all just a big illusion? Now, Parmenides comes along with this piece of pure, cold logic. Let's just walk through it together. Step 1, something either exists or it doesn't. Being is, not being is not. Simple, right?
Step 2, you can't actually think about pure nothingness. Go ahead, try it. You can't. So step 3, and this is the mind bender. For anything to change, it has to go from what it is to what it is not. But since is not is unthinkable, he says change itself is logically impossible. His conclusion? True reality is one, single, eternal, unchanging thing. And our senses? They're just lying to us.
You can imagine this caused a huge problem, right? So along come a group called the Atomists with this really brilliant compromise. They said, okay, Parmenides, you're right. The fundamental stuff of reality has to be unchanging. They called this stuff atoms. But, they said, these atoms can move around and rearrange themselves, and that's what creates the changing world we see. It was a genius move that reconciled logic with experience, but it also laid the foundation for a purely materialist worldview that we, as ministers, still engage with every single day. Okay, so after all this talk about the universe, about atoms, about what's truly real, you can almost hear people on the street saying, but what about us? What about our lives? And that's exactly what happened. Philosophy took this dramatic turn inward. It stopped looking up at the stars and started looking at the person right in front of you. And this new focus is perfectly captured by this famous and kind of radical statement from Protagoras. He was a leading figure in a new group of traveling teachers called the Sophists. These guys were total pragmatists. They taught you how to win arguments for a fee. And their core belief was that truth and law and morality, they weren't these absolute cosmic things. No, they were all relative, created by humans for their own societies.
And this right here, this sets the stage for one of the most important intellectual showdowns in all of history. On one side, you have the Sophists. Their goal? To win the argument. Their belief? Truth is relative. On the other side, you have this strange barefoot man named Socrates. His goal? To discover the truth. And his core belief? That truth is real and we can actually pursue it together.
Socrates had this amazing way of describing what he did. He said his mother was a midwife, and he was doing the same thing. He didn't claim to pour knowledge into empty heads. Instead, through his constant questioning, he saw himself as a midwife of the soul. He was just there to help people clear away all their confusion and false opinions so they could give birth to the real wisdom that was already inside them.
And that brings us full circle, right back to where we started. All of this, from Pythagoras' humility to the search for a first principle, to the battle between order and chaos, and finally to Socrates' passionate fight for truth against relativism. These aren't just dusty old ideas. They are living questions. The battles fought in the streets of ancient Athens are still being fought today in our culture, in our world, and in the hearts and minds of the very people you are called to serve. So the question for you, as a minister of the gospel, is this: how does their search equip you for yours?